Howdy, guys. Attorney Walter Hnot. Let me get the camera kind of fixed there. Perfect. There we go. Excellent. Let me get this like this. Perfect. All right. Let's get right to the video here. Now, here's what you need to know. As you know, I'm up on the farm right now recording this video as opposed to my usual studio location. Do have a little bit of a cold, so we're going to get right to the point of the video to keep my voice fresh. There have been hundreds of thousands of views, millions of views by people who are essentially looking for this stimulus payment. And this stimulus was specifically for Social Security recipients, right? The retired, the disabled, disabled children, basically children who are disabled going to SSI, widows, spouses, benefits, all those types of individuals. And the problem was that they kept producing article after article after article about this upcoming massive event about essentially a $200 increase. And the reason why, as it started going all the way back into the very early aspect of this thing, was that there were politicians in the very beginning who were promoting the idea that essentially there should be an increase of $200. Now, all ye gather round for a tale as tall and wide as a town just north of Narnia called Promised Benefit Island. In this town, there is a myth, nigh a legend, if you will, of a $200 increase. And this $200 a month increase without taxation, attachments, or restrictions, it's all unfortunately developed into tomfoolery, where literally other news stations now have to report on the fake news that were created by some of the channels on YouTube. So I want you to go ahead and think about these things as I say them too, because these were the comments that people left in my videos when I would deliver the news updates. These are literal comments or emails or text messages that I received from people. Some of them were erased, some of them you can still search. Comment number 1: is Social Security getting a $200 extra each month? Okay. Next comment: just shut the F up and tell us when the 200 is coming. Next comment: just blah, 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 white person who needs to give me my 200. Next one: bet he is the one keeping the 200 extra and I'm here SMH, which is shake my head. Next one: you're talking about stupid stuff. Talk about when my money coming. Money is coming. You need a little is in there. So there were a lot of aggressive comments about this whole $200 increase. Now, let me make something abundantly clear. Bernie's bill, the one that recently came out, was presented, and he's presented it multiple times. But Bernie's bills for this are never going to pass, this $200 increase. The other freshman Democrats that are making a name for themselves with the coin bills to create a multi-trillion-dollar coin are respectfully at this point delusional, but smart when it comes to getting people to believe that they care. The United States is making a lot of money, but they spend more than they make. Everyone has to kind of wake up as a result of this. You pay, your taxes on your wages, you pay taxes on some of your benefits, then you buy things and you pay sales tax on those items. Those items were usually taxed over 5 times from raw to get to you. And then some of you pay income tax, transportation tax, geography tax, utility tax. Think your kids are born without tax. Think again. Everybody gets taxed. The hospital, every glove, beanie, the plastic bottle has been taxed multiple times before. They tax the nurse that makes sure your firstborn returns to you with the past inspection stamp on their forearm. Just kidding on the stamp. Then when you die, you pay a tax because your kids receive less as a result of a tax being paid on the transfer of wealth. Those kids who dress in all black and hate you because you're a conformist, those guys, their black retro goth clothing was taxed as a textile, and by Linda, who sewed it together for them before it made it to the mall where they actually purchased it. So some of you actually vote for more taxes, and God bless you. God bless you. Don't think I didn't see that issue coming up. I understand that a lot of you think that more taxation is really, really going to fix this situation. But if we're kind to each other, if we're honest to each other about this, the problem isn't more taxation. The problem isn't putting more on the current working class and those who have benefits that are going to get taxed as a result by making them become retired older in life, by making them have 23% less money per month. The problem, guys, is that unfortunately, we don't have great politicians who are capable of having a working company. All right, so let's just go through this real quick. The question is, where's your money that you keep hearing about that politicians pre-election, right before they get elected, keep smiling and talking about with this $200 increase? And I'll answer it gently. The federal government, with all those tax dollars, has chosen to not afford you as much as it could. It's so bad that they are underfunding the SSA currently. This underfunding causes claims to slow. Where did the money go? A lot of people ask, well, you guys put a bunch of failed attorneys who couldn't make it in the real world in charge of the biggest corporation on earth, the federal government, including your retirement money, your disability money, and the safety of your bloodline. You put those people in charge of some pretty important things. So there is no $200 increase coming. Like, they've got bigger things to do than that, including making sure that certain trust funds don't run out of money. Like, they got to fix that first before they can give you more. Like, think about it like this, okay? The news is out there that the SSA Retirement Trust Fund is running out in like 2033, 2034. You got like 10 years, right? And Medicare is in big trouble too, and the government faces a debt ceiling crisis shutdown situation, which would have destroyed our bond market and completely destroyed our benefits. But they got through that one. The country who is telling you you can't get a car with a loan, you can't get a house with a loan, you can't get a medical procedure loan, the people that are telling you that can't even balance the nation's budget. They can't tell you how they will bleed more slowly or even come up with the money to keep paying the interest that we owe on, basically are not tens, not 20s, not 30s worth of trillions of dollars of debt that we have. I think some channels out there who get all your thumbs up, and I get it, I know how it works, all of your subscriptions, I get it, your 5 stars, I get it, have the indecency to sell you on a future filled with hope. Hope works when there is money, especially when money is needed in the billions of dollars to fulfill the hope. And think about it. Someone will be so disconnected from reality in the chat and comment section that they will blame me for them not getting their $200. Like, there's people out there that are literally that mentally disconnected. But there's about 5% of the comments where I lose faith in every video in humanity's ability to understand the basic ideas. Someone, I guarantee it, will say that I clickbaited them for not telling them when they're going to get their $200 check. I mean, that's literally how disconnected their brain is from reality. Now, just to help you define what clickbait is, it's all that crap that promised you, hooked you on, led you to that $200 was coming in 2023 or 2024. That's clickbait. That's the crap you have to watch out for. It's where you heard something that the politicians should be doing. You heard people say, wouldn't this be nice? And then you ignored all of your ability to make justified assessments mentally, sold your sanity to a dealer, and kept walking back to the parked car in the closed down BK parking lot. I had to pick on Burger King with the cracked window asking for a 200 update. And that's basically what it came down to. You kept going back to that dealer for that $200 update where they're like, I'm going to send a message to this politician. I'm going to update Congress on this thing. I'm going to tell them what people want. Like, if you think about Republicans, would they give you a $200 increase per month? No, dream on. They wouldn't. If you think about Democrats, would they give you, again, put some cliffs and unicorns in that dream so that you can recognize your brain lying to you more easily. Would the Democrats give you a $200 increase? They can't afford it. So, Justin, we're going to do a test. $250 more, likely now due to inflation changes, is coming your way. That's a lie. That's incorrect. Did you feel your brain accepting it like a sugar and salt on a biscuit? That's because you are politically vulnerable, because they made you so poor that you feel alone and desperate to the point where any improvement, would be welcome. You want to know how to get votes? You give people less. You do. It's true. If you give people less, they're going to be hungry for things. They're going to be sad. They're going to want to choose whoever's promising them more. So you make them poor, and not saying anything would be better in their life at that point. You make them just slightly more than nothing appetizing, right? Because think about it. Why 200? Why wasn't it 300? Why wasn't it 400? Why wasn't it 100? Why wasn't it $500 per month? So you just keep giving that promise over and over and over again. And these tiger's eyes that you have, they grow dull waiting to die. That's basically a lot of people out there. You hear this Justin $2,400 yearly increase in the potential horizon if Republicans won't stop it, right? That's the kind of crap you see. Justin $150 increase with the rich paying for it because they genuinely care about the community they live in. Again, total BS. You have never been to the wealthy people's community that they live in. Most of you have never been in them. Like, if you think you have, it's because you were invited there for a party on some New Year's Eve thing when you were in college. Most of these communities, they have gates. You can't get in. Look at Obama, a super wealthy individual, hyper wealthy. He lives mostly on an island. You can't get to him unless you're flown in. You couldn't get there unless a Republican paid for your plane ticket there because you got poverty evicted back to your side of the tracks. That's the reality. So when one of these $200 bills is submitted back to the Senate or House, ask yourself the following, okay? How many years has it been submitted? Look at Bernie's bills. They just keep getting submitted over and over and over again. His name pops up in the news and you guys are like, yeah, go Bernie. How many years has it been submitted? What has been changed in that bill to be successful this time? Has the president acknowledged it and backed it? And I think what's important to understand about this whole situation is that people are extremely desperate. And as a result of that, I don't feel that the government is really taking care of the average individual, because at this point, inflation has been like a negative stimulus. We all expected a fourth stimulus from Biden. Everybody did. Some Republicans will be like, why would you expect it from him? Blah, 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 blah. Everybody expected it. Everybody expected it. And, at the end of the day, unfortunately, a lot of people are now so poor that they're having to downsize. Let's go to Verify real quick, verifythis.com. Title of the Social Security article is No Social Security Recipients Aren't Getting an Extra $200 per Month. The Social Security Expansion Act included a $200 monthly increase to benefits, but it didn't pass. Here's where the legislation stands right now. This is written by Megan Lowe, and it was published basically back in February. Okay. In recent weeks, many Verify readers asked about it. Bottom line is that Social Security payments increased by 8.7% going into this year, or about $140 per month for the average recipient for 2023 due to an annual cost of living adjustment, your inflation adjustment. People wanted $200. They found, of course, because the bill didn't pass and the bill won't pass, that no Social Security recipients aren't getting an extra $200 per month. A bill that was introduced in the House and Senate in 2022 proposed the increased payments, but it didn't pass. What they found at Verify, they found a bill that would have increased Social Security payments by $200 per month was introduced in both the House and the Senate in June of 2022, but the legislation didn't pass. The Social Security Expansion Act included the $200 monthly increase in Social Security benefits for the new and existing recipients, separate from the annual cost of living adjustment. According to a fact sheet on the bill, that means recipients would have seen an extra $2,400 per year on average if the bill had passed. The legislation as written would have applied this increase to people who receive retirement, disability, and survivor benefits, but not those who receive supplemental security income. Okay. Mary Johnson, the Senior Citizens League Social Security and Medicare Policy Analyst, said SSI is a needs-based program for people with limited income and resources, which you guys all know. Senator Bernie Sanders announced in a press release on February 13th that he and Senator Elizabeth Warren are reintroducing the Social Security Expansion Act in the Senate. Okay. Additional reps basically joined. Congress would have to pass it. They're not going to. So what I'm trying to get across to you, and I want to take a very large forecasted model so you can understand it. This whole $200 increase started as an idea specific as a stimulus payment for Social Security recipients that way back in the day included the SSI people as well. SSI is, of course, supplemental security income, which is the bottom barrel program for people of a last resort. If you're older, if you're disabled, and you haven't paid into the system enough, you go on SSI benefits. All right. So with that said, what you've got to look at here is what was the transition where people started to believe? When a lot of the Democrats were running for the presidential election, all the way back to your 2020 area, Social Security was a hot topic, but it wasn't the topic. Okay. Obviously, there were a lot of things going on with Congress at that point, with a lot of people rushing the building. So that was the hot topic that took over with a lot of those details throughout that. But Social Security always had this push of a potential increase, which even President Biden spoke of many times back before he was elected to be president. So you had that high level thrust where people had this expectation that once he got in, he would do something about it. Now, he has been more than quiet on anything related to it, because to stir the pot to do that would require significant spending on behalf of the federal government because the money isn't there. Think about it. If the Republicans are whining and complaining that they're willing to destroy the economy in a shutdown that would ruin the bond market and therefore kill off your retirement benefits and your disability benefits and their actual value and worth, if they were willing to do that just to try and have our budget be to some degree reeled in and actually be on paper as to what we can increase these things by, these agencies by, how much they get. One will get 1% increase, another will get a 3% increase. What's really happening here is that essentially AUS 10C, you clickbaited us on about a $200 boost. How dare you? So that's exactly what I'm talking about. Those little comments right there, where somebody has this expectation. They're like so waiting for the news update on like what day it'll be, when it will be, that they've completely missed the message of the entire video, which is that not only will the bill never pass, there's no money to pass it. They don't have the money to pay it. They're still trying to figure out how to go ahead and essentially fix the retirement trust fund and the Medicare trust fund. Like, where do you think an extra $200 per month is going to come from for that many millions and millions of people? So one of the things that kind of comes back with this whole situation is President Biden was originally on board, standing there with other Democratic politicians. Then you had the itty bitty Democratic politicians who had just gotten elected, right? And the ones that had been in there talking about, we're going to take this coin and print it with the mint, and it's going to be worth $2 trillion. And then we're going to use that to boost Social Security benefits. Well, it wouldn't have worked forever. It wouldn't have worked for, a long period, but it would have been a small boost. But it would also very significantly hurt our economy. Thank you, Pi. I got to catch up with you, by the way, Pi. That Pi donated $5 donation. I know who that is, but you guys don't. But thank you, good sir. Very cool, very cool. So the whole thing is this. Then you have these low-level Democratic, politicians promoting this idea, pushing this idea that there's so many ways and we should do it and we need to do it. Obviously, we need to do it. We have to increase Social Security benefits. In fact, the nonprofits have now mathematically shown that all of your benefits should be $500 more because the cost of living adjustment wasn't accurate. The way that they were calculating it, the way that they were doing it based on the old mathematical models, you're about 500 less than you should be having per year. But think about that. That's interesting. That's like 2.5 times the $200 thing, right? So 200, that makes 400 plus another 100, that makes 500. So you should actually be getting an additional $500 per month. And so the question then becomes, what kind of math did they do with this whole cost of living adjustment for you to get $500 less over a 22 to 23 year period? And why is it so? This chair is going to break. And why is it such a terrible situation where people are so desperate now with inflation being so high that we can't find $200 extra per month to do it? So we're in a tough spot. And now we get into the geopolitical aspect of war. What potentially could happen? Some people say that we could call what's going on right now World War III, because you've got all the allied nations pumping money and troops and, equipment into Ukraine. You've got the non-allied regions basically doing the same thing on their end and supplying and etc. And what's happening is they are worried inside the federal government, right? They're worried because they need to keep funneling funds into the war departments, right? Anything where they have to build new tech to compete with China, where they have to build more tech to go ahead and compete with China. America isn't super worried about essentially spending money to beat Russia. America is worried about spending money on beating China. And that's because China, their Navy at this point is now, for the most part, superior than to ours, which is a bad thing because there's a big ocean in between us. And if they have all of their stuff there and they can get it there faster than we can, then they're going to have some advantages. Now, with that said, everybody always talks about this nuclear option. I think the most prominent thing that people talk about is what happens if a nuclear bomb goes off outside of, basically the Earth's atmosphere, and it messes up all those satellites up there. What happens is everybody loses internet. All of their GPS tech that works through satellites across all the nations gets screwed up. If you have internet through Elon Musk's system, that would get screwed up, and they wouldn't be able to get things up there fast enough for you to, use it in any quick time. So I think what's happening is everybody's starting to get very, very nervous about this whole war situation, which means that we have a 2024 election setup coming, right? So 2025, the new president steps in, but 2024, that's when the big hoopla happens next year, right? Next year, this time, there's going to be a lot going on with that. Everything's going to be advertisements on that. And what's interesting is that you have this war problem with China where a lot of money has to go. But then the Democrats are going to have to make a lot of big promises to Social Security recipients when they don't have any money to actually make promises on it. And what's interesting about that is that now the debt ceiling has been raised enough so it doesn't have to be raised next year, but has to be raised basically into the first year of the next president's tenure. So what's going to happen is we've got this problem. In order for the Democrats to do what they usually do, which is make some really big, strong promises, about Social Security benefits, how they're going to help people on disability benefits, how they're going to help people on retirement benefits. In order for them to make those big promises, they've got to have the money to do it. And they can't mass increase the debt ceiling, and they can't find anywhere to borrow the funds because they're already mass paying towards those interest payments on the debt we already owe. So the problem is that the money isn't there to make good on Social Security promises, which means the Democrats only have one play, and that one play is to say that they won't touch Social Security benefits. That's it. They're not going to say that they're going to increase them. They're going to reel back from that because they did play that game in 2020. So in 2024, they can't play that game. They're only going to play the game of we're not going to touch Social Security benefits. There's an issue here, though. If a traditional Republican, Pence, right, somebody like that runs, then he's going to push to go ahead and, injure retirement, injure disability benefits, because, he's going to try and make it so that they can find a way to afford them going into the future. But if somebody like DeSantis or Trump runs, then what happens is those two have always said, don't touch their benefits, don't touch them. And so what's interesting about it is that we know that if you have two parties that are their heads, right, either Trump or DeSantis or Biden, that are basically saying we're not going to touch the benefits, then the Democrats are going to have to up the ante and start saying something more magical, if you will. I don't know what the big magic is going to be. We could go back to this whole maybe $200 increase. Look at what Bernie's submitting. Look at what Bernie keeps submitting. Look at what Elizabeth Warren is supporting with Bernie. Look how many co-signers there are on it. But there's no money to pay for it. So it's all BS. And so that's why I think the $200 is such an incredible beast. It is such an incredible myth and legend, because all these things had to happen over the timeline of that story's existence for people to actually believe it. And the truth is, people made videos about it, and a lot of videos about it, and they made a lot of money off of it. They probably made $50,000, $100,000 on their YouTube channel just making videos about it. So here's my theory as to what's going to happen going into 2024 as the setup for the new president's butt to sit in the White House in 2025. So, chess move number one, Biden's going to move some heavy pieces forward and say, we're not going to alter or change Social Security benefits. He'll have Commissioner Kijikazi in tow to basically say, hey, we're not going to change benefits. We understand how important they are. And right now, the SSA is trying to sell the idea to the youth as to why Social Security benefits are so incredibly important for them. And they are. They are. They truly, truly are. The Republicans will then meet. They'll call them in their card game, right? And they'll say, we agree. We don't want to go ahead and change them, which will create this dichotomy of the real Republicans, those who are like the Bush era Republicans, like the Pences and stuff like that, versus the modern New Age Republicans, which are like your Trumps and DeSantis types. So when they call the Democrats' hand, the Democrats are now going to have to switch over to a new model. And they're going to have to attack the Republicans. Now, the way that they normally do it is they'll pick out specific Republicans who have said something in the past about injuring or slowing down or raising the age or whatever of retirement benefits or Social Security benefits in general. But they've got a problem. President Biden has a history of also saying very negative things about the Social Security program. In fact, he was one of the voting parties that goes all the way back to the 80s. So, what happens now is that you've got an issue. You've got a president that currently has a negative track record when it comes to Social Security benefits historically. And then you have the Republicans who have some recent people who are saying, look, in order for this program to continue in the manner at which it currently is, we're going to have to make some cuts. We're going to have to make some changes. Here's my theory as to what's going to happen. Social Security benefits will be a massive, massive thing unless one thing happens. And as you know, when it comes to politics, when it comes to our legal system, and it's more clear now than ever, we have this two-tier quasi system, right? We all saw what happened with Biden's son, right? We all saw the charges. We all saw what he basically got as a slap on the wrist as a result. We have a two-tiered system, okay? Or maybe a three-tiered, because it does seem like Trump seems to be getting a lot of whoopings on this. It does. It seems like he's at the bottom of it, right? There's like the average person, Trump, and then the top people of certain parties, which does span between the Democrats and the Republicans that play ball with each other. So what I think is going to happen is that there's going to be some big event, some war-related big event, which takes the emphasis, the eyesight, the energy away from Social Security benefits and puts it into the war room. Now, I don't know essentially what's going to happen with China. I don't know. Nobody knows. But I'm going to be reaching out to basically a good gentleman who's been studying China quite a bit, who's the expert on security issues. And we're going to get him back on the show. In fact, I'm going to have him actually over to my place. We're going to have a bunch of microphones set up so that he can actually get a better setup in the future to go ahead and record more videos with us to explain what's going to be happening. I'd like to know from you guys what you think are potential topics that will take Social Security benefits out of the news in 2024, because you're going to have an exchange. The Democrats say we won't touch the benefits. The Republicans respond with Trump or DeSantis, we won't touch the benefits. The Democrats will attack those Republicans who said they wanted to touch the benefits. Okay. And then basically the Republicans will respond by attacking essentially Biden's history. At that point in history, something is going to have to happen. Okay. That's the natural progression for Social Security benefits, getting out of the TV, out of the big screen. And then at that point, basically, we're going to have people not so worried about getting their extra money. They're going to be worried about survival. They're going to be worried about fear of being attacked. They're going to be worried about things like that. You tell me what I'm missing that'll happen in 2024 during the election cycle to move us away from people talking about caring about Social Security benefits. All right. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope we got you a little bit closer to understanding specifically what's going to be going on with Social Security benefits, in my opinion, into the future. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what's going to actually happen. I will catch you guys at the next video. which is basically a very simple video about should you take retirement benefits at 62 or should you take them at 67. It's more of a fun video talking about should you take them early, should you take them later. But they're all the things that people always ask me about that I'm just going to lay out quickly so you can bullet point it in your head and know immediately whether or not retirement is 62 option for you, or potentially 67, or potential 70. All right, I will catch you a little bit later. I will see you in about 10 minutes, and I see the little earthquake notation. But you have a wonderful, wonderful night, and I will see you in 10 minutes at the next video. Marjan, thank you for the $1.99 donation. I super duper appreciate it, and thank you for always donating. I super appreciate that because it does live me up a little bit, so I do appreciate that. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful night, and I'll catch you later. Thanks so much. Bye bye, guys. 10 minutes. Bye bye.